name's Mark Hobart, and I am a catastrophist. Together with my colleague over here, Ricola, we are presenting introductory video number 4, Probably Not. This is going to be stored on Caveat Mind YouTube channel. This is a summary in the PowerPoint, which is available on my essentialconceptsinc.com website. And if you want to search for more of me, more of my presentations, try Caveat Mind. Right now, Mutare Fatum, which is to change fate, is hopefully will become a tag, hashtag for search. These are my references displayed here, marked cards, how con games work, dealing with cheats, Scarn's complete guide, and then probability, a college outline of theory of probability, and the book I fear the most, The Survivor's Club, The Secrets and Science That Could Save Your Life. Because whenever I pick that up and I'm thumbing through it to look for something, I end up reading it and wasting another 2 hours of my life. It is a fascinating read about how to survive a plane, jumping from a plane without a parachute, or jumping from the Golden Gate Bridge, or avalanches and ship sinkings, everything. References thinking outside the box are displayed up here. These you can get on the website also at the end of this video. They will be listed, and you'll see that this is an important catastrophic thinking skill. Catastrophic thinking really does involve thinking outside the box when formulating public policies. Of course, this assumes you can recognize the boxes created in your mind, and the tricky part of problem solving is anticipating the problems your solution will create to avoid unintended consequences of the policy you are proposing, as on my catastrophic thinking poster down there, unintended consequences of a policy. We'll have a video on that. Thinking outside the box is a critical skill. How does our thinking box us in? Well, to overcome this is a crucial part of catastrophic assumptions, which is a part of the caveat. Catastrophic assumptions, values, and expectations used in analysis and thinking. For example, you think now that we assume we have a pretty good understanding of how likely something will occur. We trust our assumptions. The sources of our smugness for estimating probabilities comes from education, experience, and our emotions. Now, think about it catastrophically. The caveat is that's why we're so unprepared when something out of the ordinary happens. The black swan event, the catastrophe. And I mentioned here the ostrich paradox. It's a good little book. Examples. These are examples of the boxes that our thinking forms. Education, we learn the rules of probability represented here. Experience, the gambler's fallacy, which the rest of them we'll talk about. Emotions, well, in addition to the 3 listed in this, here's smarter than you think, multiple intelligences about emotional intelligence, and are you smarter than you think? So those are some good books about emotions that can box in our thinking and make bad decisions. Let's start with number 1, probabilities. We assume randomness. Set theory. Let's focus on the groups of outcomes called A, B, and C. They could be catastrophic events or merely coin flips or rolls of the dice. A union of sets, that is, if you add the sets up, you get A union B. The intersection of sets is designated by A and B. Venn diagrams, overlapping circles that with an intersection showing how parts of sets can be counted twice. To add probabilities, probability theory suggests that you take the probability of A plus the probability of B minus the probability of A intersect B, because A intersect B occurs twice, and so you got to subtract it once to find out how often it is probable that either events, A or B, would occur. But catastrophes are the real world. Theories are like thinking in a box. The laws of probability are not perfect. Catastrophes are more like avalanches than a simple law of probability predicts, because reality tends to go downhill faster and faster when things go bad. When one catastrophe occurs, many other systems are under greater stress, and those greater stressed systems are also likely to fail catastrophically. And the examples: natural disasters that lead to collapse of hospitalization systems, which leads to health epidemics. Volcanoes spread ash, and the ash causes crop failures, and that leads to famine. The famous example in the Bible of the 7 plagues of Egypt. There was a volcano at that time called Thera. Thera dropped minerals into the river Nile. The river Nile had an algae bloom. Fish died. The fish died. That was the first plague. And then that drove the frogs up onto the land. Then they died. They were infested with flies. The flies bit the cattle. Cattle died. And so on down to the hailstorm when Thera finally blew up and the firstborn died. See Exodus 7-11 of cascading or avalanche of catastrophes. Catastrophes are also cumulative. If we're preparing a policy, we have to assume they won't happen because it's probably not going to happen. But be realistic, we don't know which one, but something bad will happen. The probability of a volcano, or the probability of an earthquake, or the probability of a tsunami, or the probability of a wildfire, or a probability of an asteroid, or a solar storm, or economic crash, or war, or terrorism. We don't know what it is, but it's certain to happen. The laws of probability do not apply. The world justifies pessimism and preparing for the worst. Now, let's move on to number 2, gambler's fallacy. Now, we think from experience that things have a way of evening out. Bet the trends will regress to the mean. Coin flips are 50% heads and 50% tails. So bet tails when the coin flips heads in a row. That is the fallacy. The next coin, fate, reality have no memory. The next flip is still 50% heads. What theory does not predict is that theory can only go so far. It says 50% heads, but if the reality is 100% heads, then another factor not previously considered is at work. When theory fails, then the probability that there are other factors in reality becomes more and more probable. Like, is the game fair? Probably not. Is life fair? Certainly not. My rule: forget the regression to the mean. An improbable string of events is a sign that something is wrong. Your assumptions are wrong. There is an increasing probability that the game is not fair. The events are not random. So if you see 4 heads in a row, start looking for cheating. And I have some books here about references on unfair cheating scams. The real world is often evil, and the likelihood of a rigged game increases with every improbable event. Probability theory doesn't account for that. And a third type of box that we have is emotional intelligence. Emotions in a catastrophe range from the very bad, fear and panic, to what we mistakenly think is the very good, unwarranted by catastrophic circumstances. Our wishes, our desires, everything will turn out all right. Love. No. The control of emotions is essential in a catastrophe. You have to not only be aware of your own emotions, but to be aware of the emotions of others who let them run wild. And then you have mobs. Emotions are like animal responses to danger and reduce us to fight or flight, neither of which is a real good plan of action in a catastrophe. And then there's those books I mentioned earlier, You're Smarter Than You Think, Multiple Intelligence, Are You Smarter Than You Think? And then The Survivor's Club, How to Survive. Emotional intelligence to survive. Your lizard brain is dumber than you are. The key to survival is mental discipline. I had an earlier video called Pascal's Wager, which is about using faith as a part of catastrophic thinking. You have the will to live. You have to gain control of your emotions and develop a plan of action. You must also be aware of the people around you because they are using their lizard brains to fight or flight. To increase your probability of survival, do not let your first instinct determine what actions to take. If you can keep your heads while others around you are losing theirs, both figuratively and literally, in a crisis, your instinct to survive does not give you the best probability of survival. Use your brain. Don't be boxed in by your emotions. In policy formation, the problem is that catastrophes are remote events unlikely to occur. Policymakers tend to underestimate or ignore them because they're black swans. But policy should be designed for all possible catastrophes. As we pointed out earlier, cumulative probability is that something bad will happen. If you can conceive of it, assume it will happen. That's the worst case scenario thinking. That's a part of catastrophic thinking. If you cannot even think of it, you've identified a box. Strive to think outside of the box. How do you think outside the box? Study the process of thinking. Ask questions. Develop skeptical thinking, creative thinking. Study examples of unintended consequences. See many references, including these, thinking outside the box. This video is brought to you by Essential Concepts, Inc. The Essential Concepts video series will improve your thinking by helping you how to think. Topics covered include all these: creative thinking, skeptical thinking, unintended consequences, thinking outside the boxes of your minds, cognitive biases, and many, many more essential concepts. And then at the end of this PowerPoint, I'll have those key slides lined up for you. There's EssentialConceptsInc.com website and Caveat Mind YouTube channel. If there's enough demand, merchandise with brand name information like this hat will be sold. As a retiree, the monetization will help me survive. Please support my efforts to become essential. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Thank you. There's my copyright and trademark. But by all means, share this. Just give credit. And then I'll end every video with a prayer for peace. Thank you.